Corruption is thriving around the world. In this video, let's talk about the most corrupt countries in the world. Note, ranking may vary yearly. This ranking is based on the Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI, published annually by Transparency International. The CPI ranks countries based on how corrupt their public sector is perceived to be by experts and business people. It uses a scale from 0, highly corrupt, to 100, very clean. At number 1. Somalia. Yes, Somalia has consistently ranked as the most corrupt country in the world according to the Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI, by Transparency International. Somalia scored 11 out of 100, placing it at the bottom of the list, ranking 180th out of 180 countries. Corruption in Somalia is driven by several interrelated factors. Political instability, the collapse of state institutions in 1991 and ongoing civil conflict have created a power vacuum, leading to a lack of effective governance. Economic hardship, high levels of poverty and unemployment drive individuals to engage in corrupt activities as a means of survival. Lack of accountability, there is minimal oversight and accountability in the management of public funds, leading to widespread embezzlement and misuse of resources. Limited capacity to pay public officials, inadequate salaries for public officials, including security forces, incentivize bribery and other forms of corruption. Number 2. Syria. Syria is also ranked very low on the Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI. Syria scored 13 out of 100, placing it 177th out of 180 countries. This indicates a high level of perceived public sector corruption. Corruption in Syria has profound and far-reaching impacts on its citizens and society. Economic hardship, corruption diverts public funds away from essential services like healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Inequality, corruption often benefits a small elite while the majority of the population suffers. Public trust, high levels of corruption erode trust in government institutions. Number 3. South Sudan. South Sudan is indeed one of the most corrupt nations in the world. Corruption Perceptions Index, CPI, by Transparency International. South Sudan scored 13 out of 100, ranking 177th out of 180 countries. This low score reflects severe challenges in governance and public sector integrity. Corruption in South Sudan is driven by several key factors. Political instability. The ongoing conflict and political instability create an environment where corruption can thrive. Weak governance. There is a lack of strong, transparent, and accountable governance structures. Patronage systems. The political system in South Sudan is heavily influenced by patronage networks. Leaders often use public resources to reward loyal supporters, which perpetuates corruption and undermines merit-based governance. Resource mismanagement. South Sudan's economy is heavily dependent on oil revenues, which are often mismanaged. The lack of transparency in the oil sector and other extractive industries facilitates the diversion of funds for personal gain. Economic hardship. Widespread poverty and economic hardship drive individuals to engage in corrupt practices as a means of survival. This includes bribery and embezzlement at various levels of government and society. Number 4. Venezuela. Yes, Venezuela is widely recognized for its high levels of corruption. According to Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index, Venezuela ranks 177th out of 180 countries, indicating a very high level of perceived corruption. This widespread corruption affects many aspects of Venezuelan society, including government contracts, social programs, and even the judiciary. The discovery of oil in the early 20th century significantly worsened political corruption in the country. High-profile cases, such as the Alex Saab case, highlight how deeply entrenched corruption is within the government and its impact on the nation's economy and political stability. Number 5. Yemen. Yes, Yemen is considered one of the most corrupt nations in the world. Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International. Yemen ranks 176th out of 180 countries. This high level of corruption affects many aspects of life in Yemen, including government services, the economy, and public trust. The ongoing conflict and humanitarian crisis in Yemen have exacerbated the situation, making it difficult to implement effective anti-corruption measures. Corruption is pervasive in both public and private sectors, leading to inadequate services and widespread poverty. Number 6. North Korea. North Korea is often cited as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Reports from various sources, including the United Nations and Transparency International, highlight a pervasive cycle of corruption, deprivation, and repression. Corruption in North Korea is driven by several key factors. Economic hardships. The country's struggling economy forces many citizens to engage in corrupt practices to survive. With limited access to necessities, people often resort to bribery to obtain food, healthcare, and other essential services. Government control and lack of transparency. The centralized control of the economy and lack of transparency create an environment where corruption can thrive. Officials have significant power and discretion, which they often abuse for personal gain. Survival mechanism. For many North Koreans, corruption is a means of navigating the harsh realities of daily life. Bribing officials can be necessary to avoid punishment, secure employment, or gain access to restricted areas. Songbin system. The Songbin system, which classifies citizens based on their loyalty to the regime, exacerbates corruption. Those with lower Songbin often have to pay bribes to improve their social standing or access better opportunities. Isolation from the international community. North Korea's isolation from the international community limits external oversight and pressure to combat corruption. This isolation allows corrupt practices to continue unchecked. Number 7. Burundi. Burundi is indeed considered one of the most corrupt nations in the world. Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International, Burundi ranks 162 out of 180 countries, scoring 17 out of 100. Here are some key factors driving corruption in Burundi. Economic challenges. Burundi faces significant economic hardships, including high poverty rates and limited access to resources. This economic instability creates an environment where bribery and corruption become survival mechanisms for many. International aid dependency. Burundi relies heavily on international aid, which can sometimes be mismanaged or siphoned off by corrupt officials. This dependency can create opportunities for corruption if not properly monitored. Number 8. Haiti. Haiti is indeed considered one of the most corrupt nations in the world. Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International, Haiti ranks 172 out of 180 countries, with a score of 17 out of 100. Here are some key factors driving corruption in Haiti. Weak institutions. The country's institutions, including the judiciary and law enforcement, are often ineffective and lack independence. This allows corrupt practices to go unchecked. Economic hardships. Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere and faces severe economic challenges. High poverty rates and limited access to resources drive many to engage in corrupt activities as a means of survival. Lack of transparency. There is a significant lack of transparency in government operations. Public funds are often mismanaged, and there is little accountability for officials who engage in corrupt practices. Gang violence and organized crime. Gang violence and organized crime are rampant in Haiti, further complicating efforts to combat corruption. These groups often have ties to political figures, making it difficult to address the issue effectively. Number 9. Libya. Libya is indeed considered one of the most corrupt nations in the world. According to the 2023 Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International, Libya ranks 170 out of 180 countries, with a score of 17 out of 100. Here are some key factors driving corruption in Libya. Economic challenges. Libya faces severe economic challenges, including high unemployment rates and limited resource access. Lack of transparency. There is a significant lack of transparency in government operations. Organized crime. Organized crime, including human trafficking, fuel smuggling, and narcotics, is rampant in Libya. These illicit activities are often linked to high-ranking officials, further entrenching corruption. And at number 10. It's Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea is widely recognized as one of the most corrupt nations in the world. Corruption Perceptions Index by Transparency International ranks 172 out of 180 countries, with a score of 20 out of 100. Here are some key factors driving corruption in Equatorial Guinea. Political control and kleptocracy. The country is often described as a kleptocracy, where a small group of powerful individuals, including President Teodoro Obiang Nguema and his family, control the nation's wealth. Lack of transparency and accountability. Economic disparities. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and click the bell for more notifications.